Mickey Mantle. You've heard the name, right? Even if you're not a huge baseball fan, it just rings a bell. But what really, truly made him a legend? Well, it's this incredible story of raw, almost mythical power, a ton of championships, and this constant, painful battle he fought against his own body. So let's dig in and break down what made the Mick an absolute icon. So think about it for a second. What's the difference between a star player and a legend? Is it just pure talent, the number of rings they have? Or is there something, I don't know, something more to it? Mantle's story is the perfect way to figure that out. All right, here's our game plan. We'll start with what made him a legend beyond just the numbers. Then we'll get into his insane power as a switch hitter. We'll cover his time as a champion in pinstripes, touch on the flawed, more human side of the superstar, and then wrap it all up with the indelible legacy he left. Okay, first up, a baseball legend. Because with Mantle, it was about so much more than just being a great player. His impact went way beyond the box scores. The guy was literally the face of an entire era of baseball. And his legend really begins with this one incredibly rare skill. He was a switch hitter. Now, being able to hit from both the right and left side of the plate is hard enough, but to do it with devastating power from both sides, almost nobody pulls that off. Mantle didn't just pull it off, he basically weaponized it. For a pitcher, he was an absolute nightmare. Which brings us to his power. Because look, it wasn't just that he could hit from either side, it was the unprecedented power he had from both sides. This, right here, is where the myth of Mickey Mantle really takes off. And the foundation of that myth is this number, 536. That is a ton of home runs. When he hung up his cleats, that was the third most in the history of the game. We're talking about the most elite, exclusive club of power hitters ever. But here's the thing, it wasn't just about brute strength. In 1956, he had one of the greatest single seasons you'll ever see. He won the Triple Crown. What does that mean? It means he led the entire league in batting average, home runs, and RBIs, all of them. It is a sign of just complete and total dominance, a feat so rare it's basically the holy grail for hitters. And this gets to the sheer spectacle of his power. Mantle was famous for what they called tape measure home runs. I mean, these were shots hit so far they became stories all on their own. We're talking about baseballs traveling over 500 feet. That's more than 152 meters. These weren't just points on the board. They were events, a legend being born in a single swing of the bat. Okay, but all that individual greatness, that's really only half the story. Mantle's legend was also forged in winning. He was the absolute centerpiece of one of the greatest dynasties, not just in baseball, but in all of sports history. 7. Just let that number sink in. That's how many World Series championships he won with the Yankees. In his 18-year career, he went to the World Series 12 times. I mean, that's just insane. He wasn't just along for the ride, he was the engine driving that whole machine. And get this, for all 18 of those seasons, he wore one uniform, the pinstripes. In today's world, where players jump from team to team, that kind of loyalty is a huge part of his identity. He wasn't just some great player who happened to be on the Yankees. No, he was a New York Yankee through and through. But for all that power and all that glory, Mantle's story is definitely not a fairy tale. It was a constant, grueling fight between his incredible, almost supernatural talent and the reality of a body that was always breaking down. And this really sums up the central contradiction of his whole career. On one hand, you've got this incredible gift, pure, explosive speed. He was legitimately one of the fastest guys in the league. But then there's the burden. His legs were so banged up, so damaged, that he often played with them wrapped in bandages from his ankles all the way up to his thighs. The fact that he put up the numbers he did while battling that kind of constant pain, that's what takes his story from just being great to being truly legendary. So when you put it all together, the power, the winning, the pain, what does it all add up to? Well, his legacy is absolutely indelible, and the accolades pretty much speak for themselves. His place among the immortals of the sport is completely cemented. I mean, just look at this resume. It's undeniable. 3 times he was the league's most valuable player. He was a 20-time All-Star. And then, of course, in 1974 came the final inevitable cherry on top, a first-ballot induction into the Baseball Hall of Fame. And all of this brings us right back to where we started. When you look at Mickey Mantle's whole story, all the massive triumphs and all the incredible pain, what do you think really defines a legend? Is it the perfection you see in the record books, or is it the resilience you see in the struggle? Maybe the true legend is the one who shows us both.